But Riven's eyes had met hers across the room. Sharp. Hungry. And before she could speak, she was dragged into the shadows. That night, under the glow of the blood moon, she gave him everything. He never once said her name. And in the morning, he rejected her. Publicly. Cruelly. I made a mistake. I was drunk. It was Celeste I wanted. Not you. Serena couldn't breathe. Her wolf whimpered. But worse than the rejection? Celeste said nothing. Her own sister just smiled. And walked into Riven's arms like nothing happened. Now, 3 months later. Serena lived far from the capital, deep in the no man's land, hidden among rogue healers. Her belly was beginning to swell. She had no pack. No mate. And no name. She was nothing. Until the day the sky tore open. And Riven showed up unannounced, uninvited, and furious. He burst through the healer's cabin door, rain soaking his cloak, rage in his eyes. You're carrying my pup, he growled. Serena stood slowly, one hand on her stomach, the other clenched at her side. Correction, she said coldly. Your heir. Not your pup. Riven flinched. He stepped closer. You lied to me. You never asked my name, she snapped. You never even looked at my face. Chapter 1, The Wrong Bed, The Right Mistake. She bled under the wrong name. He marked the wrong girl. And now, the alpha wants the woman he once threw away. But she's no longer the same broken twin he rejected. She's carrying his heir and she's ready to burn his kingdom down. The royal mating ball of the Silverfang pack was never meant for scandal. Yet scandal walked in the moment the alpha prince Riven * marked a girl in the dark. He thought it was Celeste, perfect, poised, the twin chosen by the elders. But it wasn't Celeste. It was Serena. The twin no one noticed. The one who had stood silently in the shadows her whole life. And the one now carrying his child *. 2 nights earlier, Serena stood at the edge of the ballroom, wearing the same pale blue gown as her sister. Celeste had demanded they match for once, to celebrate her soon-to-be mating with the future alpha. It was a cruel joke. Everyone knew Celeste had been groomed to take the Luna position. Serena was simply there. Background noise. Lightning cracked behind him. The air smelled of fury. But Serena didn't cower. She stared him down. You chose Celeste, she said. Let her give you an heir. Or are you here because you finally realized you marked the wrong twin? His jaw tightened. You're coming back with me. She laughed. Sharp. Bitter. Over my dead body. He reached for her arm. Her wolf surged forward, * a burst of white flame and power *, slamming him against the wall. He looked stunned. She had grown. Not just stronger. Deadlier. And as he coughed blood onto the floor, Serena stepped over him. You rejected me once, Riven. Don't make the mistake of thinking I'll let you do it again. She turned. And vanished into the forest before he could rise. Back at the palace, Celeste stood at the window, watching the storm roll in. Behind her, a hooded witch whispered. The child Serena carries is not just an heir. It's a prophecy. And if it survives, Celeste loses everything. Celeste's smile vanished. And her wolf snarled. Chapter 2, Chased by the Alpha, Hunted by Blood. The wind howled through the whispering pines. Serena pushed harder, barefoot across frozen soil, her cloak billowing behind her. Her heart thundered, not just with adrenaline, but with panic. Riven was close. She could feel him. His scent clung to the air like smoke, musk, pine, dominance. The mating bond she thought had faded had only gotten sharper now that she was carrying his child. Her wolf snarled inside her. Asterisk keep moving. Don't trust him. Don't look back asterisk. She hadn't slept in 2 days. Every time her eyes closed, she dreamed of claws dragging her child from her womb. Of Celeste's voice whispering, "Only one of us deserves to be Luna." And in those dreams, Riven always stood beside Celeste. Back in the capital, Riven's fist slammed into the wall of the war room. She vanished. His beta, Darek, stayed silent. Trackers lost her scent at the river, Riven muttered. She's covering her tracks better than a rogue.
Eric cleared his throat. She's not just running from you anymore. What do you mean? She's being hunted, not by rogues, by pack wolves. Riven turned slowly. Who sent them? Derek hesitated. And that silence said enough. Celeste, Riven's eyes darkened. She knew. Alpha, there's more. A prophecy has surfaced about your heir. Riven's pulse froze. She said it was a mistake, Dark added. But we overheard her. She's planning to eliminate the girl before the blood moon. Riven's heart dropped into his stomach. He hadn't just rejected the wrong twin. He'd chosen the wrong enemy. Serena reached the ruins of the old Moonfang Temple by nightfall. It was cold, broken, forgotten by time. But it was also sacred ground. No blood could be shed there. Not by wolves. Not by traitors. She dropped to her knees, breathing hard, clutching her stomach. The baby kicked. Alive. Strong. A reminder that she couldn't afford to be weak anymore. Footsteps echoed outside the temple walls. She looked up fast. Riven. Soaked. Breathless. Furious. "You're fast," he said. "You're slow," she snapped back. He stepped closer. "I didn't know. Serena, I swear, I didn't know it was you that night." She flinched as he said her name. "Don't say it like you've earned the right to use it. I came back for you." "No, you came because you found out I'm pregnant." "I came," he said, voice rough, "because I still feel you in every breath. I hear you in my head. I dream of you." "Dream of her," Serena growled. "Celeste, your perfect little Luna." His hands curled into fists. "She's not who I thought she was." Serena's laugh was bitter. "You figured that out now? After she watched you humiliate me in front of the whole court and said nothing?" "I'm trying to fix this." "Some things," she whispered, "don't get fixed. Some things get born again." She turned, placing her hand on the stone altar, and the ancient runes beneath her feet flared to life. The temple pulsed with light. Riven stepped back. "What is this?" She looked over her shoulder, her eyes glowing gold. "This child isn't just an heir. He's the Alpha reborn." In the palace dungeons, Celeste visited the captured seer. She leaned in close and whispered, "If I kill the heir before the blood moon, will the bond break forever?" The seer didn't answer. She just smiled. "No, darling, it'll kill you." Chapter 3. A Knife Beneath the Crown. Celeste looked perfect in white. Dressed for a royal feast, skin glowing, lips red as fresh blood, she walked into the high court like a Luna already crowned. No one knew the dagger strapped to her thigh. No one saw the dark sigil hidden in her palm, burned into her flesh by the witch who promised her one thing: Serena's child would never draw breath. Beside her, Alpha Riven's seat sat empty. He hadn't returned from the Rogue Lands. And Celeste? She smiled like she wasn't breaking inside. She'd waited her whole life to be chosen. Not Serena, not the Shadow Twin. Her. And now, that child, that bastard, threatened to undo everything. The witch had warned her, the Alpha's blood carries power, but it's the mother who chooses what the child becomes. So Celeste made a plan. Kill the mother before she chooses. Meanwhile, in the ruins of the Moonfang Temple, Riven couldn't sleep. Serena lay on the floor beside the altar, pale and still, the strain of the journey catching up to her. She didn't trust him, but she let him stay. That was enough. For now, he watched her belly rise and fall, felt the weight of what he'd done. Not just the rejection, the humiliation, the betrayal. But Serena, she had become something else. Powerful, silent, full of fire. And when she shifted in her sleep, a flash of white fur shimmered beneath her skin, a mark of a divine wolf. He'd heard legends, but never seen one. His mate wasn't ordinary, and neither was their pup. He moved closer, kneeling beside her, hesitant. Then he whispered, "I'm not here because of duty. I'm here because I can't lose you again." Her eyes opened slowly. "Then you shouldn't have left me the first time." By morning, a raven arrived, its claws stained red. Riven caught it midair, unrolling the parchment tied to its leg. One word was written in Celeste's handwriting: "Come home." Beneath it, a sigil, the same death mark that had cursed wolves centuries ago. Serena saw it and froze. "That's a blood pact." "She's going to kill you," Riven said. "She'll try." Serena stood, gripping her blade. "Then let's end this." Back at the capital, Celeste had already set her trap. The High Council had been summoned, a public gathering under the blood moon. Serena was to be accused of seduction, betrayal, and treason against the crown. She would be executed. The child would be handled quietly. And Celeste? She would finally wear the Luna crown, with Riven bound to her by guilt and the court silenced by law. But what she didn't expect was Riven showing up at her door, covered in battle scars, and holding Serena's hand. In the palace square, the blood moon began to rise, and the seer's voice echoed from the shadows. "One twin shall fall, one mate shall bleed, but the child shall choose." Chapter 4: The Mate Trial. The royal square was packed, wolves shoulder to shoulder, cloaked in shadows and silence. The trial had begun. At the center, chained in silver, stood Serena, pregnant, fierce, unbowed. Her wrists bled, her lip was split, but her back was straight. She didn't look like a rogue or a traitor. She looked like a queen. The council sat high on the stone steps, led by Elder Vaughn. Beside him sat Celeste, draped in silver, her face twisted into a soft smile meant to hide the venom beneath. "Serena of the Moonshade bloodline," the elder's voice boomed, "you stand accused of impersonating a Luna, seducing an Alpha, and concealing a royal heir. How do you plead?" Serena's voice rang clear. "Not guilty." The crowd stirred. Elder Vaughn raised a brow. "You deny betting the Alpha during the blood moon?" "I didn't deny that," she said. "I deny that it was a crime." Gasps, whispers. Celeste's nails dug into her seat. "She used her sister's scent to deceive the Alpha," Celeste added sweetly. "She manipulated him." Serena turned, eyes blazing. "He never asked which twin I was, because he never cared." Every head turned to Riven. The Alpha stood frozen, caught between truth and politics, between his mistakes and the child that now grew inside Serena. Elder Vaughn demanded, "Is the child yours?" Riven finally spoke. "Yes." The crowd erupted. Celeste stood. "Then if the Alpha does not reject this disgrace, the pack must." Serena's knees weakened slightly from the pressure in her belly, but she forced herself upright. "I may not be your Luna," she said, "but this child is your future Alpha." A silence fell. One by one, heads began to lower, until a shriek cut through the quiet. Celeste. Her wolf pushed forward, cracking the glamour. "Enough of this," she roared. "If no one else will do what's necessary, I will." She lunged. A silver blade flashed in her hand, aimed straight at Serena's heart. Too fast, too close. But then, Lucas stepped out of the crowd, the Alpha's cousin, the Beta commander. He caught Celeste mid-strike, twisting her arm until bone cracked. "She's pregnant?" he hissed. "Have you lost your mind?" Celeste screamed, wild-eyed. "She stole everything from me." "You did that yourself," Riven growled, finally stepping forward. His wolf surged out, Alpha Command slamming the square with a wave of force. Everyone dropped to one knee, except Serena and Celeste, but only one of them was still standing. Celeste dropped the knife, her arm bent at an unnatural angle. Riven turned to the council. "This trial is over. She must face punishment," Vaughn barked. Riven nodded slowly. "She will. Celeste will. For false testimony, for attempted murder of a Luna-bonded female, and for conspiring with a dark witch." Celeste's face collapsed in shock. "You can't," she began. But Ravan had already turned his back on her and offered his hand to Serena, in front of the entire court. She hesitated, then took it. The chains snapped open, and for the first time in her life, Serena stood not in Celeste's shadow, but in the light. That night, as the court celebrated a new beginning, the old witch returned to her cave. She poured blood into the fire and whispered, "The Alpha has chosen the mother, but the child has not yet chosen him." And in the flames a vision burned, a boy with glowing eyes, and behind him, a crown made of bones. Chapter 5. The Blood in Her Womb. The palace gates opened for Serena. For the first time, no guards blocked her. No whispers followed her. No one mistook her for Celeste. She walked hand in hand with Alpha Riven, her hair loose, her belly round beneath her cloak, a symbol of forgiveness, of power, of return. But every step she took inside that golden palace was heavy with memory. This was where she'd been humiliated. This was where she'd bled. And yet, she was back, alive, and carrying the air they couldn't kill. Later that night, Serena stood alone in the Luna's bathing chambers. Steam curled around her skin as she stepped into the water, her hands floating over her belly. The child moved again, but this time, it wasn't a kick. It was a pulse. Magic surged up her spine, lighting her nerves on fire. Her eyes rolled back. Her wolf howled from within. And a voice, not hers, whispered in her mind, "Born not of choice, but of consequence." She screamed and collapsed into the water. Riven burst in first. She was barely conscious, floating in the bath, eyes glowing white. "Serena," he roared, dragging her out. Her skin burned against his hands. Her heart thumped unnaturally fast. He laid her on the marble, calling for healers, but before they arrived, her body jerked. And the baby inside her growled. Not cried, not kicked, growled. The attending healer paled. "Alpha, this isn't normal," Riven growled back. "He's strong. That's all." But the healer didn't look convinced. Serena's voice rasped as she came to, barely above a whisper. "Something's wrong. You're just weak." "No," she said. "I heard something inside me. A voice. It wasn't mine." Riven went still, then said, "You're not going back to the Luna Chambers." He moved her to the old war tower where protective runes covered every wall. Serena wasn't safe in the open anymore. Not from Celeste, and not from what was growing inside her. The baby wasn't hurting her, but it wasn't normal. Not anymore. Meanwhile, across the palace, Celeste watched the flames. Her dislocated arm had been healed. Her punishment stayed, for now. But the witch had returned, and with her came a final offer. "Kill the child before its first howl, and the blood moon prophecy dies with it," she whispered. "But if it draws breath, it won't stop at claiming the crown. It'll claim you." Celeste clenched her jaw. I failed once, she said. I won't again. And she reached for the vial of black poison that shimmered like shadow. That night, as Serena rested, Riven stood beside her bed. He didn't sleep. He couldn't. She stirred in her dreams, sweating, whispering things in a language no wolf had spoken in centuries. And across the room, a lamp exploded. Without being touched, the child was calling power to its mother's body. Too much. Too soon. And if Ravon didn't find out what was inside her, it might kill them both. Far beyond the palace walls, in the mountains of the fallen court, an ancient wolf rose from his grave. His eyes opened, gold as fire. He breathed once and said, "The white blood has returned." Chapter 6. The White Blood Truth. Serena stood at the highest tower of the palace, cold wind biting through her cloak. She couldn't sleep, could barely breathe. The nightmares were getting worse. Whispers of war, a crown of fire, wolves kneeling and burning, and at the center of it all, a child, her child, eyes glowing white, blood on his hands. She pressed her palm to her belly, trembling. What am I carrying? Down in the old archives, Ravon and Luca tore through ancient scrolls. None of the signs matched any normal alpha pregnancy. No healer had seen magic bleed through the womb like that. No unborn child had ever shattered light stones without touching them. Until Luca found it. A scroll sealed in red wax hidden behind a false wall. White bloods. The first line, marked by stars, born from betrayal, birthed in fire. She stood, furious now. Then understand this. If they come for my child, I will burn this entire kingdom down to keep him safe. Riven stepped closer. I won't let that happen. Serena's eyes flared. You don't get to promise that. Not after everything. His jaw clenched. You're right, he said. But I'm still going to protect you. Because you're mine. She flinched. I was never yours, Rivon. You chose Celeste. He didn't answer with words. He stepped forward, grabbed her face gently, and kissed her like he was starving. Slow, deep, and filled with apology. Serena didn't pull away. Not immediately. Because the bond still burned. Still lived. Even after everything. Her fingers dug into his shirt. His lips moved to her neck. Her breath hitched as the Luna mark on her shoulder lit with heat. And then, a crash. The door burst open. Luca stormed in, eyes wild. She's here. Who? Serena gasped, heart thudding. But she already knew. Celeste. The rogue alarms rang across the palace walls. Celeste wasn't hiding this time. She'd walked through the gates like royalty, covered in dark runes, followed by wolves with no eyes, witch-bound soldiers, dead wolves reborn. The front guard tried to stop her. She snapped a beta's neck without blinking. Riven read faster, pulse quickening. They weren't just powerful, they were forbidden. Centuries ago, the Whitebloods nearly wiped out the High Pacts. Born of mixed royal and seer bloodlines, their children could command minds, control storms, even reverse the mate bond. The council had hunted them to extinction, and now one was coming back. Through Serena. Through him. She can't know, Luca said grimly, but Riven shook his head. She already feels it. Hiding it will break her. Serena didn't need anyone to tell her. She felt it in her bones. When she looked into the mirror, her eyes flashed white for a second. Not gold. White. She opened her palm. The air pulsed. A book lifted itself from the shelf. Then another. And another. She dropped her hand in shock, and the magic collapsed. What the hell? She whispered. That evening, Riven returned. She was sitting by the fire, arms wrapped around her belly, eyes distant. You found something, she said without looking up. He nodded. You already know, don't you? Serena turned. I'm carrying a white blood. He nodded again, slower. It's rare, dangerous, but not evil. And yet, she said coldly, you all wiped them out, because we feared what we didn't understand. Where is she? Celeste hissed. Where is my sister? Inside the tower, Serena's water broke, and the ground trembled. A voice echoed from deep inside her. The Alpha is not your protector. You are mine. And I am ready to be born. Chapter 7, Born in Blood. The palace is under attack. Serena is in labor. Celeste is at the gates with death in her eyes, ready to kill before the heir takes his first breath. But the child growing inside Serena is no ordinary heir. He's choosing his moment. And he's choosing his side. Keep reading. A storm is coming, and it begins with a scream. She's here. Those two words sent the entire palace into chaos. Riven's wolf snapped forward, eyes going full alpha as Serena collapsed to her knees, gasping. She's too early! The healer shouted, rushing toward her. No, Serena whispered, sweat already slick on her skin. He's ready. Lightning cracked outside the tower window. The floor beneath her trembled. A pulse of white-hot power rolled through the room, knocking out every light. Serena screamed, not from pain, but from the sheer force of the power awakening inside her womb. Below, Celeste walked through the front gates like a queen without a crown. She wore black. Her wolf's aura was poisonous. Her hands dripped with rune blood. Behind her, witch-forged warriors marched in eerie silence. The palace guards formed a shield wall. She barely glanced at them. I'm not here for you, she called out. I'm here for my sister. Riven met her at the base of the tower stairs. You come one step closer, he warned, and I'll tear you apart. Celeste tilted her head, smiling. Still protecting her, even now? She's my mate. No, she whispered. She's your mistake. Above, Serena clutched the stone ledge of the birthing chamber. The runes on the walls were glowing, white, silver, red. She screamed again. The child was coming fast, and with every contraction, the air around her vibrated like thunder. Her wolf tried to surface, but something else rose with it. A deeper power. Ancient. Terrifying. The seer at her side began to chant. He comes under the blood moon. He comes between war and fire. He comes as choice. Serena cried out, her voice shattering the window glass. The moment the first crown of the baby's head appeared, the tower exploded with light. Outside, Celeste froze mid-step. Everyone did. The sky split open, and the blood moon turned white. Not red, not gold. White. Wolves all over the city fell to their knees as a howl echoed across the realm. A newborn howl. Strong, clear, commanding. The white blood heir had been born, and with his cry he marked the world. Celeste's face twisted in fury. She charged. Riven shifted mid-leap, blocking her path. Fur silver, fangs bared. They clashed. Brother against sister. Alpha against venom. Steel clanged. Claws tore. Blood hit the stones. Celeste fought like someone with nothing left to lose. But Riven? He fought like a male who had everything to protect. Serena collapsed back against the pillows, eyes wide, gasping. The baby, her son, was in her arms. But he didn't cry again. He looked up at her, eyes glowing, and he spoke. Not with words, but with thought. You gave me life, Mother, now I'll give you power. Her eyes flashed white. Every wound on her body healed instantly. Her heartbeat steadied, and her wolf howled, no longer fractured, merged, whole, reborn. She rose from the bed, not weak, but burning, and she began to walk toward the fight. As Celeste pinned Riven to the ground, her dagger at his throat, a shadow rose behind her, Serena, eyes glowing, white fire coiling around her arms, and in her arms, the child. Her voice shook the stone. You won't touch my mate, and you'll never touch my son. Chapter 8. Fireborn, Blood Claimed. Serena. Revan's voice was hoarse as Celeste's blade pressed into his throat. His blood painted the stones beneath him. But the second Celeste turned her head, she froze. Serena stood at the top of the stairs, barefoot, glowing with white fire. Her child, quiet, wide-eyed, rested against her chest like a prince in the arms of a goddess. Her hair blew around her face, though there was no wind. She looked like judgment, and Celeste knew. She'd lost. "No," Celeste whispered. "No, you weren't supposed to survive." Serena stepped forward slowly, each footstep cracking the stone beneath her. "I didn't," she said. "The girl you tried to bury is dead. This," she raised her glowing hand, "is the mother of the white blood." The palace shook. Celeste screamed in rage and lunged for the child one last time, but Revan caught her mid-leap and slammed her to the ground. "This is over," he growled. "You can banish me," she snarled, struggling beneath him. "But the witches still want him dead. You think they'll stop?" Revan glanced at Serena. Serena didn't hesitate. "We're not running," she said. "Let them come. Let them try." And as the blood moon finally faded behind the clouds, the baby, tiny, quiet, powerful, smiled for the first time. That night, as Celeste was dragged away in chains, the old witch stood on a mountain peak. She stared at the moon. Her voice was wind. The child was born too early. The prophecy was triggered too soon. He will rise, but not alone. And beside her, another woman stepped out of the shadows, pregnant, with eyes just as white. The wolves watching all dropped to one knee, even those who had once served Celeste. The child's power pulsed outward in waves. Magic surged through Serena like a second heartbeat. "Put the blade down, sister," she said coldly. Celeste's hand trembled, but her pride didn't break. Instead, she screamed and lunged again, this time straight at Serena. Bad choice. The moment her blade touched the edge of Serena's fire, it melted into ash. Celeste's wrist ignited with white-hot burn marks. She screamed and fell to her knees. And Serena? She didn't even blink. Riven rose behind her, bloodied but standing. "I should kill you," Serena said to Celeste, stepping closer. "You already did," Celeste spat. "You stole everything from me. I never wanted the crown. I never wanted your mate. I only wanted peace." Serena's voice softened. "But now, I want you to know you lost." She held up the child, and every wolf in the courtyard lowered their heads. Even the elders, even the traitors, even the witch-forged soldiers. Celeste's eyes widened in horror as she realized what had just happened. The child had claimed the pack, and the pack had accepted him. Not Revan, not Serena. Him, the newborn alpha,